There we go.
All right. Welcome to North Georgia Advocate Podcast 31. I'm Chris Dyer with Viral Chhadua. We're here with newly appointed Hall County Planning Commissioner Susan King. She got appointed by Kathy Cooper after the fiasco they had to disband the Planning Commission for a while, and they're trying to, administer the Planning Commission and get things going again. Welcome aboard, Susan, and please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in all this.
How I got here, how I landed in Flowery Branch, and then subsequently get appointed to the District 1 Planning Commission. So my name is Susan King, and I am originally from Ohio, and I've lived in a couple of different cities in Ohio, Dayton, Columbus, Cincinnati, and I lived in Chicago for a little while. But primarily, my adult life has been spent here in Georgia. And prior to coming to Hall County, I lived in Henry County in the Stockbridge area, south of the airport. And my husband worked for Delta Airlines, and he worked there for over 30 years, and retired at the end of COVID when they made it really attractive to go ahead and take early retirement. I have a couple of children, and my oldest daughter lives in the Oakwood area in the Mundy Mill community. My career background, my work background is in broadcasting, radio broadcasting. And I've worked for several local stations, primarily probably recognized Clear Channel Communications, iHeartMedia, the K-Love Radio Network. I'm a news anchor, and I currently do contract work for small and medium market radio stations that cannot afford their own news department. And as you know, basically you can turn a computer, a desktop or a laptop computer into a recording studio, and a lot of things are done remotely now, and so I'm able to do that. I've also, my background, I served 5 years as a part-time licensed local pastor in the United Methodist Church. The United Methodist Church has a track for lay people who feel called to pulpit ministry to be able to serve in that capacity. And so there's a bit of a training period. You go through some training. You have to sit. If it makes anybody feel better, you have to pass a psychological test for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
That's always good to pass.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's always good to pass. And then I had an appointment at Ellenwood United Methodist Church. That's in Clayton County, just off of I-675 at Exit 5, and I did that for 5 years. Part-time, they have a lot of churches in the North Georgia Conference that used to be able to support a full-time ordained minister, no longer can, and so they will put in a part-time or full-time, quote, licensed local pastor. They give you what they call a license to preach. And over the course of time, living in Henry County, and both my kids graduated from high school down there, we had a situation in District 2, which is where I lived, a county commissioner who was not doing his job. He was not doing a good job at all. And we were looking for someone to step in and do a better job. And a candidate by the name of D. Clemens stepped in. Now, I am a Republican. I'm a registered Republican. And at that time in Henry County was primarily Republican as well. District 2, the seat was held by a Republican. But he wasn't doing a good job. And we had a town hall meeting with D. Clemens, who was the Democratic candidate on the ticket challenging the Republican incumbent. And she came out and did a town hall with us and got a chance to meet her. And I mean, she came to the meeting and she had answers, solutions. She knew what the problems were. She had done her homework. She had been engaged down at City Hall or down at the she'd gone to commission meetings, and she knew what the issues were, and she understood that we had a problem because nothing was getting done in our district and there were some needs. And she got elected. And I certainly a lot of Republicans voted for her. And through the course of that, that's how I met her. And one day I got a call from her, and she asked me if I would like to serve on the Zoning Advisory Board, which is essentially the Henry County equivalent of the Planning Commission.
Right.
And I had absolutely no idea what what I was getting myself into, but I said yes. I said yes, and I showed up to the first meeting. I had my materials. They prepped me a little bit, and I served on that board for 5 years, and served for a while as vice chair, and had to, run the meetings a couple of times. If I needed to, I could.
Right.
And I learned a lot, And so 5 years of that was, about enough. And then, of course, we were moving and came here to Hall County. It was sort of, where are we going to go after my husband retires? Where's a good place to land? Florida's always an option when you retire, but I think it's a little hot for my husband. And since my daughter lives here in Oakwood, I found a real estate agent. Now, keep in mind, this was at the end of COVID.
Right.
And you know how real estate was moving. It was time for us to sell the house. We could make a little money on it. And I found an agent who knew the area, and she would send me pictures of homes in Flowery Branch and Gainesville area. And I said, man, do I really want to live in Flowery Branch? I mean, when you live on the south side of Metro Atlanta, you typically don't go north of I-20. You
Right.
just don't come. You might come into the city, but you're not making the hike all the way up, to the 985 corridor into Gainesville or Flowery Branch. I mean, the Falcons training camp is here, but I'd never been to Flowery Branch.
Right.
So my daughter was looking for a house about the same time, and we decided, well, let's get her in a house first. And she really lucked out and found a nice home there in the Mundy Mill community. And then we said, okay, well, now it's our turn. And my real estate agent provided a couple of options, and we really lucked out. So I'm just over here off of Spout Springs Road, District 1, kind of between Reunion and Sterling. I know most people know that location on the
Right.
map. South Hall, kind of the busy area, and where all the stuff is happening. And it's a nice neighborhood, and I love Hall County. I love my house. I love where I am. I'm within 15 or 20 minutes of 3 Kroger's, Publix, Kohl's, Home Depot, whatever I want. It's close by. I rarely get caught in traffic here. I know some people may think that sounds odd, but in Henry County, they have real major problems with truck traffic on the interstate, to the degree that they're talking about putting in a dedicated truck lane down there because of all the truck traffic. It's sometimes really almost impossible to even go a mile or two. Of course, 985 ends, there are trucks there, but you don't typically, you don't have the volume. And I really like it here. And I'm getting to how I got on the Planning Commission. It's a little bit of a trip. So we get in the house. My husband's retired. I'm still able to do my radio work because I work remotely. And my husband had a couple of little part-time jobs. He was working at one of the local bike shops, since closed, and he got a job over at Road Atlanta because he likes cars and motorcycles, and he sits out there on one of the turns. And through that, he met Mrs. Cooper's son, Tyler. And through that, a couple of them out there work at the Christmas tree farm owned by the Coopers.
Right.
Now, I do not know Mrs. Cooper. I did not know Mrs. Cooper. I do not know her. I don't follow my husband to work. Okay, that's nice. I'm glad you got a couple of little part-time jobs, because when you're doing that, you're not bugging me. So I, of course, because I pay attention to the news, I'm watching what's happening with local politics and government and Planning Commission. And I'm a big stickler. I like to call and bug the people in the road department and tell them to pick up the trash and cut, because it really drives me nuts. But as I'm driving around Hall County and I'm learning about Hall County and living here, I'm seeing a lot of the same issues that we had in Henry County when it comes to growth and development. I can see it. I just know what's happening, and I understand how residents are feeling about it. So I'm keeping up with this story, and I'm thinking, well, I know how to do that. I know how to do that job on the Planning Commission. So they had a little trouble with the meeting issue, and it caused a major challenge and problem for everyone. It's a big deal. And I understand that. And one day I said to Wayne, this was around Christmas time, is Mrs. Cooper going to be at the Christmas tree farm? Because I would like to give her my resume. That's all. I just want to give her my resume and let her know that I understand what's happening. I understand it's a challenge, and I've done this before. Perhaps I can help. Well, Wayne didn't like that. He said, it's inappropriate for you to come out to the Christmas tree farm. All right, well, that's your gig. Honest to God, I never met Mrs. Cooper before. I was going to go out and just give her my resume. So I emailed her at the, at her county email address. And I said, look, I understand, explained to her my situation. I understand this is a problem for everyone. Here's my resume. And I would just like to put my name out there for your consideration. I know you're going to have to, fill that gap, that you've got an open spot, and I would be happy to talk to you further about it. She emailed back and she said, oh, obviously you're qualified. And of course there's a process. She says, well, we're still working through how we're going to handle this, because it was a process. It was a big deal, right? It was a big deal. What are we going to do with this? How are we going to handle these people? And how do we fix it and make it right going forward? Because it was huge problem. So some more months went by, and I said, you know what? I just had such a sense that I was just supposed to let her know, and that's the truth. And I thought, if it works out, it works out. And if not, that's okay too. And so finally, a couple months went by, because they're still working through the process. And she reached out and she said, well, now I need to start interviewing people for this. Can you meet? I said, sure. So we met over here at the library on Spout Springs. And we had a nice conversation. I'd never met her before in my life. Mrs. Cooper is not my personal friend. And she said, well, now, if I don't win the election, I'm going to probably be in a runoff with Mark. And if he wins, this term ends at the end of January. I understand that. But I'm still happy to help you, because I realize there's a need here, and I know how to do this, and I'm not scared. I'm not scared. I know what happens in these meetings. I kind of know, where things go, how things can go, and it can get tense. And I know people complain about a lot of things. I said, but I understand, and I see what's happening here is the same thing that we experienced in Henry County. At one point, Henry County, and I think Jackson now is the fourth. At one point, Henry County, Georgia was the fourth fastest growing county in the nation.
Right.
Now, I do believe that Hall has surpassed Henry a little bit, but they're still growing down there. And I think Jackson is actually now probably really pushing ahead as everybody moves out in that direction. But I understand. I know how to read the documents. I understand about conditions. I will do a site visit if I'm not familiar with the property. I know how to do this. And so, and then since she appointed me, she appointed me, and I accepted. So that's how I got here. And I realized that a lot of folks don't know, who in the heck is Susan King? And that's how I got here. So
I think that's it's great that you mentioned doing site visits, because I think that's going to be doing probably 110% more than previous planning commissioners. I just kind of looked at the map and kind of went about, approving or denying a particular project. Site visits aren't very common, from at least what I've seen in some of these applications.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have.
Well, they aren't
with the site
visits,
and we also, the sunshine laws were the biggest thing. And you put that on top of these guys not going to the job sites. How do you rule on something if you don't set foot on the property? I mean, that's been all my biggest things.
Yeah, no, you do need to do a site visit. I had an experience once in Henry County. There was an applicant who wanted to put in a one of these glamping sites, this like upgraded, like a hotel, a glamping where you camp out in this tent that's got, furniture and it's not like normal camping, like your pup tent, out on a campsite. And it was on a property that was in a very residential area. It was bordered on all sides by a fence. And the applicant was adamant, and we want you to come out and look at it. And I think what had happened was they had started to build it and realized that they hadn't gotten approval for it. and then circled back around. So I want you to come out and do the site visit. Well, we got to the site. I went with one of the other zoning advisory board members, Mr. Risher, who used to be the county manager in Henry County. He was such a great and valuable resource because he knew every nook and cranny of Henry County because he had served as the county manager and since retired, and his commissioner appointed him to the zoning advisory board. But we got out there and these glamping things. The property was a mess. There was trash. It was weird. There was a lady living in a house on the property and there were bottles and things hanging from, it was kind of weird, but there were homes on either side. And he gave us the tour and he showed us, and they're kind of cool. You know, it's like an upgrade from your regular tent. And he was wanting to go ahead with it, and we ended up denying it because I didn't feel good about it being so close to those other homes. And I'm sure those people didn't want that because you just don't know what kind of activities are going to go on as far as noise or drinking or, I mean, it's just a lot of factors to consider. And he called me and he was mad that we didn't approve it after the site visit. And I said, I can't remember the guy's name. And I said, well, please don't confuse a site visit with automatic approval.
Right.
The site visit is for us to see what it is you want to do and how you're planning to do this and exactly how the property looks and how it might impact others. And I could tell he was mad at me. He got a little snappy with me on the phone. And I said, look, don't confuse a site visit with automatic approval. It's not going to happen. So those things come up. One of the things that I learned, and it takes a good year really for you if you have never done it to kind of get acclimated and understand what's going on. One of the things that I learned very quickly was that most people, citizens, residents, really do not have a good understanding of how their local government works.
Right.
And that's a shame because that just creates the environment or the atmosphere for just complaining without an understanding of the processes that are involved. Because, you know, quite frankly, it is difficult for the staff to go, you know, I rely very heavily on staff. I'm not the expert. I'm not paid. I mean, yeah, I get a little stipend, but I'm appointed. I'm simply making a recommendation. The county commissioners are the ones who the final responsibility for this decision is going to come down on. So I have to rely on the staff because they know they are working through all of the regulations, the guidelines, whatever is in the UDC or the comprehensive plan, how it all lines up. And it's their job to lay that out for me to look at and then assess. And so I rely on them, and I would say 85 to 90% of the time, if staff is doing its job right, you're going to follow suit with staff recommendation with minimal conditions. Conditions only happen when what they're looking at, what staff is looking at in the first place isn't strong enough to hold up against whatever it is somebody wants to do. So I think that's why they're redoing the comprehensive plan so that they've got something that's got teeth so that planning commissioners are not inclined to just continue adding conditions. You know, you can have a couple of those on staff recommendation. You don't even have to approve them. So, but people in general don't understand. The infrastructure is usually lagging behind the development. There's a lot of factors. A complaint about the schools and things. I understand that you're worried about the school crowding. We always got an impact statement from the school district, and they'd say, hey, this development, this residential, you're going to add so many homes. We estimate there's going to be so many kids, and they're going to need so many classrooms in order to accommodate that. But, you know, the school district, as you know, they're responsible for getting their own money for this.
Right.
And people don't always understand that. Sometimes if it's a state road, if people are like, what about traffic? Well, if it's not the pipeline on GDOT for widening or improvements or whatever it is you guys are looking for, it's not going to happen. And then there's, you know, the element of having, you know, the money, where are we going to get the money for the infrastructure improvements? The state may contribute a portion. One thing that we had a challenge in Henry County, I don't think we had a good advocate down at the state capitol for road for infrastructure money. I don't think we ever had a good advocate that went down to the state capitol and pounded their fist on the table and said, we need more money. You guys want to put all these warehouses down here, and you want to deepen the port of Savannah. Those trucks are coming over, all loaded up after those big cargo ships come in. Everybody's going up and down I-75. And we've got these, state-owned roads, state roads. You're responsible, but you don't have them in the pipeline to be widened or improved until 2030, 2035, and we're suffering now. I just don't think we ever had a good advocate. So there's a lot of moving parts. And the thing about the Planning Commission or Zoning Advisory Board, however it's described, it's really the opportunity or the venue for citizens to come and feel like that's where they have their voice can be heard. And I hear that a lot. Our voices, I hear that in the HOA, right, my neighborhood, because I serve on the board. We want our voices heard. And your voice can be heard, but you have to be intentional about it. And, show up at a meeting and sign up for the time to speak. And I always do listen. I do listen. I think that's part of the job. And so I'm not sure what happened with these planning commission meetings, how in my mind, I'm thinking the culture allowed it to happen. I don't necessarily think that county commissioners or those in leadership here intentionally ignored people. I don't think that. I think the nature of it all and the way things have been happening so quickly, they just kind of became insulated because they had to. It's almost like you move into a defensive position, because all of a sudden Hall County is a destination. It's a destination. What do you mean? And it's fast. And there's, again, a lot of moving parts, and you have to respond to it. And oftentimes the first inclination is stop it, shut it down. Well, that's easier said than done. We have to manage it. And manage it wisely and consider all things. And again, Planning Commission is important. It's a recommendation. It's a recommendation. The commissioner is going to do whatever they're going to do. And they can, sometimes I feel like I'm just, I'm going to just we'll pass this on and they can duke it out. Because
Susan, do you have a date as to when you're going to start for Hall County?
Yeah, I think September is what they're shooting for.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure that's written in stone. So they are really taking their time. And I will tell you, I went through training, and I've done this class before through the Carl Vinson Institute over there in Gwinnett County, although they brought it to us this time, and they made a lot of the county leadership sit in on it. We had 2 days of training. I can't remember the woman's name who teaches the class. So you're certified. It's Planning and Zoning 101 and 102. So I did that, and then came back the following week to meet with staff and some of the other leadership. I think Casey was there, and John, of course, was there, and going over, there's the other factor of how do we run the meetings, because that can be a problem too. Robert's Rules of Orders, you have to know how to control the meeting. And the meeting has to run efficiently in order to get things done.
Right.
It can't be sloppy. And so some people don't know how to do that either. You walk into it, that can cause problems. There's a procedure to it. There's a method to it. There's a format to it that works if you apply it. And so, we just then the next week when we met with staff, it was more, here's our role, here's talking a lot about how to conduct the meetings and what should happen. And then we even kind of did a little mock meeting. So they are really taking steps to make sure that whatever happened with this group does not happen again. And pretty much said, you don't talk to developers, you don't
right.
They want, yeah.
And what happened with the last one is they were all yes men for the developers.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been going on for probably a decade, because one of the guys that got kicked off, he had been running the meetings for 12 years, and they had been breaking all these sunshine laws for that long.
Oh,
and
wow.
Their defense, and they're suing when they're suing the county now, is they were never properly trained. And we know that's a lie because it's in the record. So that's why they're so adamant about y'all's training. And
yeah, I mean, I had to sign a piece of paper, and that's fine. I had to sign. I was present. I sat through this. I signed it. They have a copy. Yeah, they're protecting me. You know, in Henry County, we met with the county attorney, the zoning advisory board. We met with the county attorney every year. And I remember the first meeting we had, he said, if you ever do anything to get this county taken to court, we are not going to back you up. And I thought, well, thanks a lot.
To tell you how comfortable they were with breaking the sunshine laws, they were doing it on site in the government building.
Yeah.
And didn't think nothing was wrong with it.
Well,
at least go across the street to the Waffle House or something, you know?
You know what, Chris? That's a good point. And again, I point to culture. So, and I want to say this carefully. Sometimes, you know, I grew up here. I was born here. I was raised here. I lived here all my life. You can kind of get in a bubble, and you get insulated from you. Just it's the culture. It's okay to do certain things. That's how we've always done it. Or well, shucks, we've been doing this. It's okay. Nobody's called us on it before.
Well, that's why we're getting a new county administrator. That's why we've got this new board coming in. I mean, and nobody's trying to claim those people that did this were bad people per se.
No, I don't think at all. No, I agree. Again, it's the culture. But you know, and I'll say this, and I had this in Henry County too. It's similar. I'm telling you, it's so similar. And it is a culture. There needs to be training in the county departments. When you call a department and they pick up the phone, sometimes it sounds like you're just bugging them.
Oh yeah.
Well, they work for me. And this is a culture, you know, and that really needs to be addressed as well. And I hopefully down the road it will. But, you know, you are in a role of service, public service. Even if you're working in the office in the landfill, you are paid by the taxpayers. This is a service, you know, Hall County Landfill. This is Susan. How may I help you? That's your job. Not, hey, you know, what do you want? You're bugging me. I'll look and see.
That's what we heard the most was no communication between the planning commissioners and the county commissioners themselves when they wouldn't respond to emails, they wouldn't return phone calls. You know, there's no transparency. That's been changing a lot in the past couple of 18 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
Because they used to do it really well, and then for about a 10-year period, it got to where it was, you know, just a problem for the transparency to do it. And one thing I want to bring up is what you mentioned before is these people, by the time something gets in front of the Board of Commissioners, it's too late for the most part.
That's true. That's right. That's true.
And the Planning Commission is the time that you have to go, but our past Planning Commission and some of our past staff, nobody ever knew when the meetings were, what was going on.
Wow.
And they left it up to the people to basically have to go to the website to find out exactly what's going on. And when you have Planning Commission meetings at 3 p.m, what do you expect?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So then what kind of, I wanted to ask you before September rolls around, because right around the corner now, what kind of, you know, what are you looking forward to as far as being on the Planning Commission, some of the challenges or opportunities that you guys might have discussed last night too, but you know, for Hall County, for the few years that you've been here, what have you seen? What do you want to bring to the table?
Sure. So, and that's a great question. There was a lot of really positive energy in the room last night. There's a lot of really bright people, concerned people who want to make a difference. They're willing to take their own personal time and make sure that we get this right, because they have lived here a long time. And for those of us who haven't, we want it to be great too. That was so encouraging last night. And so I would, you know, let everybody know that there's a lot of hope and positive energy that's being put into this. So for me, of course, it'll be interesting to see how the meetings go, working, you know, with others on the Planning Commission. And learning more about the district that I'm serving, because there's still a lot of little spots. You know, I'll be driving around, I'm like, oh, I never noticed that before. Now let me go down this road. So learning sort of the ins and outs, the nooks and crannies. District 1 is pretty large and diverse. And then, of course, making good decisions that will reflect well. And I think there are certain challenges specific to South Hall because of the growth and the types of growth that we're going to see. Yeah, and I know people say we don't want to become the next Gwinnett County, but you know, there are some good things about Gwinnett County. They have great parks. And there are cities within Gwinnett County that are doing great things. This work, live, play concept down in Sewanee and Sugar Hill and Lawrenceville, they're moving towards that. And so we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater all the time, but we can learn from communities around us. And also based on what I've seen in Henry County, you know, a lot of times it's, we want a Whole Foods. Can you get us a Whole Foods? We want to sign a petition. Like, you don't understand. Whole Foods is not coming here just because the county commissioner turns in a petition with a bunch of names. They are doing a socioeconomic study, demographics, income studies, and then they have to find the right property. It's not as simple as just a petition because we all want a Whole Foods. And so that's sometimes where the disconnect comes in. And I look for, you know, with residents, because they think we just want a Whole Foods. Can we just go to their website and tell them? It's not that simple. Right. And so, and talking to, learning, you know, talking to my neighbors, learning, hearing from residents and meeting people. As I said last night, I was really encouraged by the amount of expertise that was in that room. There's a lot of really qualified, smart people in there with good ideas. I loved the guy when they brought out the board to paper, man, they had written 4 on our last group discussion. They had 4 pages full of stuff. So I feel confident that, you know, the new comprehensive plan, and it's on a fast track to get done in about a year, it is going to be a huge improvement over what everyone's been working with. And that will make the planning staff jobs easier, planning commission easier. It'll make it easier for residents to understand. It'll be more crystal clear, and also for the commissioners when it comes time for them to make a final decision. And then everybody's going to have to loosen up a little bit and be willing, you know, to be open to discussion and hear all sides and make wise decisions. And transparency, to your point about transparency, we can't be afraid of that. And be willing to have discussions. And sometimes if it's not pleasant, that's okay too, but we'll get to the, you know, the end result, hopefully, and it'll work out for everyone.
Right. And I think you're stepping in at a great time, because this is the first time that the Hall County government's ever been this transparent and let the citizens actually apply to be on anything like this. Usually it's just people appointed from the same planning commissioners or the same board of commissioners or the people on the development authority. You know, it's the same people making
the same circle. Yeah, they pull from the same pool. Yeah, I totally agree. And we have this in Henry County too. It's human nature. It's nepotistic, incestuous, if you will. We just tend to gravitate. I know this person. I'm familiar with them. Just stick them on there, right? So we need both. We need, you know, the chairman who says, I grew up, I mean, he's almost in tears. He's like, you know, because he sees his county changing so much and he wants to preserve all the things that he loves about it. At the same time, he understands that there's growth coming. We have to accommodate it, but we have to do it in a wise manner. So those types of people are important, the ones who have always been here, and also for someone like myself. And we have a couple people on my committee that are not from here, that we've lived other places. And sometimes it's good to have eyes that have been other places and kind of see what other, you know, communities have done or are doing, or with different ideas or maybe a different approach to be in the mix too. But to your point, this happens, like, you know, we call it the good old boy network, don't we? Isn't that what we say?
Absolutely.
And Hall County, you know, I mean, you guys were kind of tucked away up here, and it was just kind of Lake Lanier. It's Gainesville. And look what Gainesville has done with the downtown square. Live, work, play. Live, work, play. Now, they've got that court up there by Lakeshore Mall they've got to fix, because that's a big eyesore. Right. And that's a huge challenge. But once they fix that, they've got some issues to deal with, and it takes time. But I think the growth, the requests, it all just started happening so quickly and kind of caught everybody off guard. And then you're just backpedaling and you're on your heels, and it makes it more difficult. But I want you to know I was really encouraged last night. Those people are smart. People are smart. Yeah.
But I really think that we're getting some outsiders in as well, because you can't live in an echo chamber. I'm a firm believer you have to have, you know, different inputs from different cultures, people from the north, people that's moved in, you know, just all different kinds of, because we all have to meld together in the community. I
agree. And the challenges faced by the north are certainly different, you know, from those faced by the south or other sections of the county, you know, where you're bordering on the lake, where there's certainly a lot more, still plenty of room up north for all kinds of things to happen. And they're looking at that so that they can preserve the green space, so that they can keep the natural aspect of it, so it just doesn't look like it's just development after development.
Well, and then, of course, it's going to help the north. The sewer only goes so far north, so we're on septic up here mostly where I live. So that's going to stop a lot of the density. Yeah. Yeah. And then balancing medium, low, high density. Those requests are going to come. And I don't have any problem, because I'll tell you, commissioners already know the big ones that are coming down the pike. And, you know, if I have a question, say, you know, I'll call the commissioner and say, are you aware of this? It's coming. Yeah, this is coming. What are your thoughts about it? And I don't think there's anything wrong with having that discussion, so that at least it's not a surprise to everybody. But again, I rely on the staff. They're the ones who are picking through the nuts and bolts of it. They are the ones who really are making, honestly, the decision, because they know what fits and what doesn't. And if it means putting a condition, and they told me, you know, some requests were getting, 12, 13 conditions put on. That's too many. Yeah. That's too many. That shows that it wasn't right to begin with.
Well, I will say, Susan, the prior planning commission, and then I would even say the board of commissioners too. You get an application that comes in with a staff recommendation for approval or denial, and you know, if they are to approve something, these are the conditions they would recommend. The planning commission usually goes against the planning staff, which me and Chris and a lot of us in these little watchdog groups, we kind of find it odd. It's like, what's the point of us having a planning and zoning staff and having over $1 million in salary for these folks? Well, if you're not going to listen to what they're saying, and I think specifically there was a couple of residential developments that, or actually, I'm sorry, not residential, but it was a mixed use with warehouses and residential. Just didn't make sense. And planning staff recommended denial of it, yet it made it all the way through, and then, you know, ultimately passed by the board of commissioners with a laundry list of conditions on it of that needed to be handled. So yeah, that was always an issue. We'll see if that still is, you know, going forward too. But yeah.
But that's a good point. No, I mean, I don't want that much I don't want that much responsibility. I'm going to rely on staff. They know the nuts and bolts of what is happening now. And the commission meeting is my time to query them about it. If I have a question, Katie, what about this? Katie, what? And I'm going to do that. That's the time when we need to pick it apart. But I rely on them, and I'm kind of surprised that it went the other way, because to me it seems safer to go with staff recommendation. Right.
Well, I think the county screwed themselves last time they did the UDC. They farmed it out to a third-party organization. I can't remember the name. It was from Atlanta, and they come back with a book that was 6 or 8 inches thick, and it was just full of a bunch of nothing that didn't really help. And that's why they have to add all these conditions and everything to it, because it really didn't hit to the problems that were in our community.
So I believe a couple of conversations that I've had with Katie and the planning staff before too was that the current UDC just doesn't give enough bite for the planning staff to really say yes or no, because they were always able to apply for these planned developments and planned industrial developments, or PCDs and PIDs and stuff, and just kind of get away from specific zonings. And so I think that was one of the issues with the older UDC, and kind of what we're working on with this new one now.
So the developers probably know that too.
Right.
They do, and they take advantage of it. Yeah.
Of course they do. And I mean, I've been accused of taking money from they assume that you're taking money from developers.
Well, yeah.
I've been accused of that.
Well, what these people don't understand is your hands are tied a lot of times. As long as it fits the land use development, you have no reason to deny.
That's exactly right. And that's to my point, where people just really don't understand. They just think you're getting up there and you're looking at a piece of paper, and if you talked with the developer and he took you to lunch, or he slipped you $50, or I don't know what the price would be, and then you just vote in his favor, and that's just not true.
Well, please take more than $50 if you're going to do.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm worth more than that, but I mean, you never know. Some people might take it, but even a cup of coffee might work. How do I know? But So I'm really looking forward to it, but really everyone should be encouraged, because, and John is really good, and it's like, man, I'll tell you what, he's got his hands full. I don't know if they're going to replace him, if they're looking for someone else, but they might want to just keep him around for a while, because he's so calm and he's so good, and he understands what's happening. And Katie, like, they're really trying to fix it.
Yes.
They really are.
Yes.
And they're on track to do that, and it will get fixed. They're going to have to, or they're going to spend hours in court. The attorney's going to be busy. You know what I mean?
I was kind of thinking the same thing last night on John. I was like, we need to go ahead and take that interim tag off and put him in that position. For sure.
I think so. He works well with everyone. The planning staff is lovely. There's some really bright people that work, and they're not all from around here.
No.
The one woman, I can't remember her name, she's from California. There was a lady in my group last night from the Chicago area. And you need that. And so, but they work hard. And I know Katie's working really hard. So I feel good about it, and I'm excited. And hopefully, Mark, probably need to meet with him. Maybe Commissioner Cooper and I and Mark get together before, the end of her term. I would like to stick around, of course, but if not, I understand too. He might have someone in mind, but I mean, they trained me, and I've done it before, so it would kind of make sense, at least till the dust settles. But that's up to him, and he and I can have that discussion, or the three of us, whatever. So
right. Well, even with the planning doesn't work out, it could open doors in another area within the government, because this.
Well, that's true too. That is true too. So yeah, and Mrs. Cooper did put me on that group last night, which really I think is almost an even more exciting piece, because you really do have a say in the setup of the comprehensive plan. You're really going to give input, whereas when you're on the Planning Commission, you have to work within the framework of whatever is there, instead of creating the framework. So if that makes sense. So, but I really appreciate you guys reaching out to me, and I'm happy to talk anytime. I'm in radio. I make my living talking. I have a face for radio, so that's why I don't usually like to do video stuff, but
exactly.
But
yes, Susan,
I like to talk.
thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. I know I caught you a little last minute off guard yesterday, but I appreciate you.
That's okay.
Yeah,
it's good. It's like breaking news. It's like breaking news. You got to be quick on your feet. I get it. So,
but at least we know who Susan King is now.
You do, and people know, because who the heck is Susan King? Well, it must be one of Mrs. Cooper's friends, because that's what's been happening.
Yes.
Right.
That's what's been happening, is that they just appoint somebody they know.
Well, and that's because that's what's always happened.
Right. Right.
And I think if she went with you, I'm not saying because but it absolved her a lot, because as one of her picks that was one of the ringleaders of the meetings. You know what I'm saying? So
I understand.
Right. No, and I mean, and that's why
it was totally a safe pick.
Yeah, no, exactly. It was a safe pick, but the thing is, you know, that shows that the people are willing to change.
Absolutely. And I'm sure she had other people who came to her and said, I'd like to try that. But she did go with me, not knowing me.
Right.
She knows my husband. It's funny, when we talked on the phone, I'm like, the thing we have in common is my husband. And we both laughed.
Right.
I never met, So, but she did, and she'd taken a chance a little bit. But at the same time, I've done this and I'm not scared. And I think she picked up on that. I'm like, they're not going to scare me. Don't worry. I'm not afraid.
Well,
Because I
good.
know how this can go.
Well, I think Hall County's going to benefit from you being on, whether it's just for a few months or you get appointed through Mark as well, which I hope he does. I mean, with your qualifications, he'd be kind of crazy not to seriously consider it.
Sure. And I understand that. And I appreciate you saying that. And anytime you guys want to talk and catch up, and once we start meeting again in September, if you want to reconnect, or even before then, just let me know. I'm happy to do it.
All right, sure
Yes, ma'am.
will.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet. Have a great
Bye-bye.
day. Okay. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I think she's going to be good on the commission. She brought up a lot of good points, and I think having somebody like her on the Planning Commission can only be positive.
Yeah, well, I tend to agree with you. I met her in person yesterday as well at the project kickoff for the stakeholder committees and steering committees for the UDC revisions and whatnot. And that actually was yesterday was just a kickoff, kind of getting our feet wet, everybody doing introductions and whatnot. So it was a good start, good turnout. I would say 95% of the people that were supposed to be there showed up, that were volunteering their time to kind of be there and be a part of this whole process. But yeah, man, yeah, it was good.
Now, when y'all meet, are y'all going to meet all together every time, or is each group going to split off and have meetings on different days? Or
No, I believe
go to a different room or whatever.
I'm not too sure. They didn't tell us specifics on that, but everybody, all the committees do meet together in the Board of Commissioners chambers, where they have the public meetings and whatnot, and then they break off into their little subcommittees, or for their own little character areas and whatnot. So yeah, we were kind of a mix with Sardis, Murrayville, and North Hall, kind of side by side, kind of controls, or we're looking at the same little area over there.
Right.
But we were still two separate committees.
Right.
And so yeah, I don't know how that's gonna play out in the future, but as of right now, the way it was set up is everybody's in the same room, but kind of divided into their little groups. And then you break off whenever, the activity is, to kind of discuss. So last night we discussed for our specific character area, Sardis, Murrayville, and all the other character areas too. They all did the same thing, was, opportunities, challenges, what are some of our top priorities, and there was one more thing on there that I can't recall right at the moment. But yeah, everybody kind of went through that whole process, and then each committee's also assigned a planning staff, so they kind of like guide what you're supposed to be doing and whatnot. They don't have input into it. They're just sitting there
to keep you on task.
Yeah.
So it's easier to get off task quickly in one of those meetings. I mean,
right. Yeah. And just to answer any questions if they have them and whatnot. But it's more so to just kind of the staff to be there, listen, because I don't know if it's legally or not legally, but they don't have any input into this. They're just there to kind of get feedback as to what are these people saying, and then they come up with a draft and kind of present that to the steering committee, and the steering committee kind of,
conglomerates everything, consolidates everything.
Consolidate kind of like refines a finished product, kind of, whatnot. And then the planning staff goes back for a draft again. And it kind of it's going to be a revolving door until there's a final finished product that can go to the Board of Commissioners to be potentially approved.
Well, and
And
I'm glad they kind of broke y'all up too, and Maryville and Chastity and then North Hall and then East Hall, even though they're all in the same district and have a lot of the same problems, they have a lot of different issues as well.
Yeah. Different areas and different I would say different challenges in certain areas, especially with East Hall, with the inland port now. That's one thing that they're going to be having to deal with. And then trying to preserve a lot of the scenery and the scenic rural aspects of Murrayville, Chestatee area, while still kind of balancing, bringing in some economic growth so that you can have warehouses, you can have potentially, poultry or any kind of meat processing plants and stuff that can come up along that Thompson Bridge corridor right there. So people aren't having to travel too far to go to work and whatnot. But understanding that there's limitations as far as where sewer can go also.
Right.
So we need to make sure we're not bringing in crazy high density into some of these places that don't have the sewer access and kind of limiting that off.
Well, in Maryville and Chestatee, they have more sewer access than any other part of the District 3, I do believe.
Yep. Off of that 60 area. Yep.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things too that we kept on bringing up is like, how far does sewer run up that way? And I think it stops right around the chicken plant, Fieldale.
Right there.
Right.
Yeah,
right around theirs. And they didn't, nobody really knew for sure whether that's already at capacity or not. So I think that's one thing to really figure out, make sure before you approve anything else, and if there's any plans
to have
capacity.
And it's kind of funny, and if you notice, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed, I've noticed it when Steve and I were talking when he was running. They've never crossed the sewer over Thompson Bridge into into District 3. It's kind of stayed in District 2.
Mm.
It's not crossed the highway, because when you go up 60, on the right is District 3 and on the left is District 2 for the most part. That's the Highway 60 is the divider.
I gotcha.
So
yeah, I believe Mr. Rutledge, he was one of our I think citizens for the meeting. I think he said up in Yellow Creek, that's where is District 2 up that way.
Yeah, Yellow Creek, it's over to the left off of right when you get through Maryville right there.
Yeah. But yeah, let me hop off. We'll have to end this with Susan's introduction to our viewers and kind of what happened, what transpired last night. I did want to address one thing too. I know Jody's been a little upset with who was appointed to the steering committee and whatnot. But after looking at that and looking at who's on there, I would say I think it's a good steering committee. They have eliminated a lot of the real estate folks out of.
They have.
Yeah, because with the steering committee, I think you got to have some of these folks that are on there that might have even been on there last time too, but with these eyes that have expertise in utilities, water infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, kind of, and then you, of course, you got what's his name? Commissioner Gibbs is on there too,
Right.
and then obviously Katie as well. So I think you got a couple of good folks from the county and county staff as well that are going to kind of make sure the developers aren't taking 100% of this like they did the last one. And there's certainly more checks and balances, in my opinion, going forward.
There was a couple of people I didn't like on there.
Yeah.
But you're never going to get that many people and you agree with everybody. I mean,
right. Yeah.
And the only thing I wish they would have done is put board of education members on there instead of Schofield, the superintendent. I think you'd have got a better mix
Yeah.
a better pulse of what's going on by having the individual.
Well, at least
board
somebody that's going to show
presentation.
up.
Well,
you
no,
know?
yeah. I mean, and Schofield, he's been in all these other things. He's got a reputation for not showing up.
Yeah, we'll wait and see to make that,
I just know I'm going
opinion.
by past for people that's been in other groups with him, like, the different groups.
Well, this week is the start of schools, so I'll give them a little bit
We'll
of
give 'em a
benefit of the
pass
doubt on
this
that.
time.
Yeah, but next one and the one after that, and I don't know how many of these meetings we have together with the steering committee themselves. Yesterday was, like I said, was a kickoff for the whole thing, so we might not even see each other at the next meetings and whatnot.
Right.
But either way, yeah, we'll keep an eye out to who's showing up, who's not.
Now, and one other thing I want to bring up real quick is we won't get into it because we don't know many details. It's just been announced right before we started recording. The Hall County Commission has scheduled 3 meetings to increase our property taxes by 14.12%.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to sure we need to raise Cane, but we don't want to overreact or get into too much of it until we know the details and what's went on. And because the way they left it at the last meeting was they were just wanting the revenue to stay the same. They were going to roll back I think when they presented their budget, there was only like $1 million difference in last year's budget and this year's budget.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like 800 something thousand. I mean, it was really, really close. And that's why when I seen that headline before we started the recording, I said, holy cow, 14.12%. Then you add in the board of education, 6.9%. We're looking at a 21% increase across the board. I mean, that is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, they're going to get their money one way or another.
So, well, yeah. All right, Vera, we'll get off and do your thing. And we appreciate Susan coming in, and we'll try to record something again by Friday or possibly Monday, once we find out more about the
tax proposal,
the tax proposals, and we have the meetings coming up next week for the county commission, and the board of education.
Yeah.
We'll start getting into those where we get into they got the regular meeting, then they have the voting meeting, so they'll start having those next week. So we'll know a little bit more as we move into next week. So, all righty. Well, thanks for listening, and we will see y'all on the flip side later.